You open the fridge before breakfast. The light clicks on. Milk, yogurt, a wedge of cheese. Nothing looks different, but one question has changed. Could bird flu in dairy cows matter to your ordinary Tuesday bowl of cereal? The honest answer is yes, but not in the way headlines suggest. Raw milk used to be a niche food choice, wrapped in taste, tradition, and trust. H5N1 has turned it into a real-time food safety experiment. That sounds dramatic, so let's slow it down. The key question is not whether all dairy is dangerous, it is which dairy carries uncertainty. In March 2024, H5N1 was first detected in U.S. dairy cattle, expanding a virus once discussed mostly around wild birds and poultry. CDC says H5 bird flu is widespread in wild birds and has caused outbreaks in U.S. poultry and dairy cows. CDC also describes the current public health risk as low, with sporadic human cases mostly among dairy and poultry workers. Low risk does not mean no risk. It means the danger is not evenly spread across every carton, every kitchen, or every person. FDA says it is confident pasteurization is effective at inactivating H5N1, and that the commercial pasteurized milk supply is safe. Pasteurization is simple in concept. Heat the milk enough for long enough to inactivate pathogens without turning breakfast into pudding. FDA testing of 464 pasteurized dairy products, including milk, cheese, butter, and ice cream, found no viable H5N1 virus. That matters because viral fragments can show up after a virus is already inactive. A test for genetic traces is not the same as infectious virus. FDA has repeatedly emphasized that pasteurized commercial dairy has not shown viable H5N1 in its sampling program. So why are scientists still watching milk so closely? Because raw milk skips the step that makes the rest of this story calmer. Pause. Raw milk is not just milk with a different personality. It is milk without a pathogen reduction process designed for exactly moments like this. Public health agencies have long warned that raw milk can carry Salmonella, Campylobacter, E. coli, and other pathogens. H5N1 adds a viral layer to an old bacterial conversation. It does not erase the old risks. It stacks another uncertainty on top. In late 2024, raw milk products were recalled in California after retail raw milk tested positive for H5N1. A positive retail test is not the same as a confirmed consumer illness. That distinction matters if we want caution without panic. A 2025 Nature Medicine study tested H5N1 stability in raw milk and raw milk cheese under controlled experimental conditions. The researchers found infectious H5N1 could persist up to 120 days in raw milk cheeses made under certain pH conditions. That finding challenges a comforting assumption that aging alone always makes raw milk cheese safe from this particular virus. The same study reported that ferrets fed contaminated raw milk became infected, supporting raw milk as a higher risk exposure. Ferrets fed contaminated raw milk cheese did not become infected in that experiment, which is reassuring but not a free pass. Softly, reassuring is not the same as settled. Animal models can guide us, but they do not perfectly predict every human kitchen. This is where evidence gets nuanced. Raw milk showed clearer transmission risk. Raw milk cheese showed persistence but not infection in that feeding test. FDA previewed related findings in March 2025, warning that 60-day aging alone may not eliminate viable H5N1 in raw milk cheese. For grocery shoppers, the practical line is fairly simple. Consider choosing pasteurized milk, yogurt, cheese, butter, and ice cream. If you buy specialty cheese, check whether it is made from pasteurized milk. That small label detail may matter more during this outbreak. Some people choose raw dairy for flavor, texture, or cultural tradition. This episode is not about mocking that choice. It is about matching a choice to the evidence we have now, while the virus is still moving through animals. CDC is monitoring people with animal exposures and says most U.S. human cases have involved dairy or poultry work. If you work with dairy cattle or poultry, consider following CDC exposure guidance and report eye redness, respiratory symptoms, or flu-like illness. For everyone else, the fridge question is less about fear and more about reducing avoidable exposure. FDA's position is clear. The commercial pasteurized milk supply is safe, based on pasteurization effectiveness and product testing. That does not mean every farm has the same risk, or every person has the same vulnerability. Exhale. Children, older adults, pregnant people, and immunocompromised people may want the lowest uncertainty option: pasteurized dairy. If your household is divided, one approach is simple. Keep pasteurized dairy as the default and treat raw dairy as a higher-risk exception. You can also ask a cheesemonger direct questions. Is this pasteurized? How was it aged? Has the producer changed practices during H5N1? Those questions are not rude. They are the same kind of curiosity you bring to fish freshness or egg handling. Nature Medicine published the raw milk and cheese H5N1 stability data on October 8, 2025. The timing matters because food habits often lag behind outbreak science. The cheese in your fridge may reflect yesterday's assumptions. This week, consider doing a fridge audit, not a purge. Just look at milk, yogurt, ice cream, and cheese sources. If anything is raw and you are unsure, you can choose to skip it, cook with it, or ask the seller for details. Cooking may reduce some microbial risk, but it depends on temperature and time. A splash in a cold smoothie is a different exposure. For smoothies, overnight oats, cereal, coffee, and toddler cups, pasteurized dairy is the lower uncertainty path. The 2025 study suggests H5N1 can remain infectious in raw milk long enough to matter for direct consumption. But research suggesting risk is not the same as saying every sip causes illness. Dose, handling, and host biology all matter. This is the balance. Do not catastrophize pasteurized dairy, and do not romanticize raw dairy as risk-free. CDC's low public health risk assessment sits alongside ongoing monitoring because animal outbreaks can change over time. Viruses are not moral judgments. They move through biology. Our job is to remove easy pathways when we can. One easy pathway is raw milk in the fridge. Another is sharing raw animal products with pets. Consider keeping raw milk, raw cream, and raw meat away from cats and dogs, especially while H5N1 remains active in animals. FDA's dairy investigation continues as agencies test products, track herds, and update guidance when evidence changes. Steady, good public health advice can feel boring. In this case, boring is the point. Heat-treated dairy, clean handling, steady attention. If raw dairy is part of your identity or community, you can still make a temporary risk decision without rejecting your whole history. Temporary is important. Outbreak information evolves. A choice that made sense 2 years ago may deserve a fresh look now. FDA testing included pasteurized milk, cheese, butter, and ice cream, which helps answer questions beyond the basic milk carton. That is why the strongest practical message is not dairy avoidance. It is pasteurized dairy confidence and raw dairy caution. At the store, look for pasteurized dairy first. If the wording is unclear, choose another product or ask staff. At restaurants or cafes, you can ask what milk they use in lattes, smoothies, custards, and house-made cheeses. If you host brunch, pasteurized options make the meal easier for guests who are pregnant, older, immunocompromised, or simply cautious. This is not about perfect purity. It is about choosing the safer default when the benefit of raw milk is uncertain. The evidence indicates pasteurization works against H5N1, while raw milk and some raw milk cheeses can carry unresolved questions. This content is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice. Always consult your doctor or a qualified healthcare provider before making changes to your health routine. If you remember one thing, make it this: the risk is not spread equally across the dairy case. Pasteurized milk in your cereal, evidence is reassuring. Raw milk in a smoothie, that is where the uncertainty grows. If this helped make the fridge question feel less confusing, consider liking or subscribing. It helps more people find evidence without the panic. The goal is not to fear food. It is to understand where food safety systems are quietly doing useful work. Right now, federal data support confidence in pasteurized commercial dairy, not confidence in unpasteurized dairy during H5N1 circulation. So tonight, when you open the fridge, you do not need a new wellness ritual. Just choose the carton with less uncertainty. That is better health faster in practice. Not dramatic, not trendy, just a small decision backed by the best evidence available. Your fridge is not a battlefield. It is a place where tiny, informed choices can make everyday health feel a little steadier.